Some people will be completely familiar with this, and some people it's just kind of an introduction. We're going to have a look at the backstage area, and it's particularly as if you were arriving to tour. So we'll be looking at access. We'll be looking at, say, the facilities that are available in this venue, which are very good. It's set up for something now, so we will be looking at backstage. We also have a number of lanterns, of lighting equipment on a bar that Connolly is going to go through. And the idea is just to explain briefly what they do, what they're used for, and why you might need. Now, obviously, this is all going to be part of another further discussion about the whole tungsten issue later on. But it's really just to kind of an introduction to get you thinking about maybe the technical things that might be an issue, because the first session will be mainly dealing with that type of thing. I was going to go through the glossary, but seeing as you're all going to have a copy of it, the glossary is specifically, it's stuff that people know, but it's put in a touring context. So it's kind of, it's less of a glossary and more of a kind of a suggestion as to how things work. It's a backup for what you should and shouldn't do, I suppose, really. And what you should and shouldn't know. So I think Dylan is going to talk us through the venue part of it, and then we'll hand over to Connolly, and Connolly will do the lighting bit.
All
Is
right.
that the best way to do it?
Hiya, how are you?
Okay.
So some people I know, some people I don't, and then how many people have been here before? You've all been, a lot of you I know have been here before, and then some haven't been here before. So that's a question I always ask kind of groups that come in, and young groups as well, especially children. A lot of them have already been here before and know everything and are very confident and know all about the kind of rules and regulations of the stage. But as all of you know, anyway, working in the theatre, that it's very different kind of space to a rehearsal room, and it's a very different space to your own home, even though we all kind of consider it our home, and we call it the house. So I'm going to say, obviously, a lot of the words that are on the glossary, and a lot of them that you already know, but those are all the kind of descriptive words and instructional kind of vocabulary that you need in order to kind of communicate with the technicians when you go into venue. I'm a technical manager here, and then we're very lucky to have a production manager here as well, so there's two of us. So the workload is kind of split between active work and admin work. And obviously with the two venues, then we're able to present two pieces at the same time. There's also then the rehearsal room, the cafe, the main box office, and of course the visual arts gallery, which in its own right is a kind of a separate endeavour as well. So when you're coming into a building like this, as you can see today, we could come in and we're driving in and everything's going to be fine, going to bring the van up, unload, no problem, and they've decided to tarmac outside without telling us, or they may have told us, but you may not have been informed in time, or you may have to kind of adjust your mindset coming into a venue, because obviously one of the main things I think about today is companies coming into venues and their mindset in venues, and also the mindset then to put a show on, and then the mindset to pack it away and take it out. And if you're doing all of that yourself and acting at the same time, then you have to have all those different hats on throughout the day, which is really important. And people who are successful are able to be a bit techie and a bit of a driver and a bit of a production manager, and then be the actor, and then get over all of that and pack it all away and sweep the stage and leave, So all of those mindsets are ways of kind of dealing with the situations which I think are coming up in these forums and with technical managers around the country. So auditoriums, this is a very kind of easy auditorium to kind of present, because you've got the audience, you've got the raised stage, you've got the front of the stage, you've got front of house, you've got back of house, you've got dressing rooms, and you've got a scene dock, a loading dock, you've got stage left, stage right, downstage, upstage, downstage left, downstage right, stage downstage, centre left, all those kind of things that a lot of you know anyway through college or through training or through your professional career. But if you're coming then into a venue and you want to focus a light and you're maybe moving the technician around on the ladder because there's only two of you in the venue that day, it's important that you can instruct them that you want to go on stage or off stage, and you're not like, I want it just down here a little bit on the left, or over there, over there. Because all those kind of things slow up the process of getting in and getting the show ready for presentation. So other things that I'm going to walk you around. Obviously, we've got the show bands in tonight. So the show bands, I was thinking about it last night, and although we're talking about kind of maybe the words showing the bag. I'm going to be the first one to say it today. And then you've got what looks like not a show in the bag. But this is essentially a show in the bag. It turned up at 1 o'clock yesterday. All of the equipment is their own, apart from the decks and maybe 2 monitors. They're running 32 lines of audio, 24 mic lines, and then return lines up to their own desk, which is also then running a separate amp with 2 extra bass bins because he likes it nice and loud. That was all set up yesterday between 1 and 4, and then 15 musicians turned up and did a sound check between 5:30 and 6:30, and then it was presented to 300 people at 8 o'clock. So that kind of effort and endeavour is possible in the day. It's nothing to do with it being 1 day or 2 days. It's on again tonight, so everyone probably is in the hotel relaxing. They want to get in at 4. We've told them they can't make noise till 5 because they've got, you've got the presentations today. So that was done with 2 in-house technicians and 2 touring technicians. And so that's 4 technicians, to put that amount of work in. There was some lighting done. Obviously, we have a gig rig, which most venues now are beginning to put in gig rigs. They'd have either a set of LEDs or a set of park cans. They'd have a 2-colour wash, and then they'd have a set of profiles and Fresnels, which you could then add gobos into or add colour into or focus as you like. And it's not a problem to move things a little bit or refocus things, but doing a whole rig isn't really always necessary, So that's one of the ways in which you might be able to, and a lot of groups are now able to put a show in a day using what's already there. We would have done that last week. Lighting designers would have rung us ahead of schedule, got a copy of the gig rig, and then refocused their shows in relation to that. Maybe only adding in extra bars for certain specials and so on. All of those words are in the glossary, I assume, or in the catalogue. And so this also has then a projection, which is run through a VGA up to a laptop. And even though, bless him, Ollie Carroll is doing show bands and ABBA, he's using QLab. They're all using the same technology, QLab through sound cards, an LS9 digital desk. We're using the Ion here, just on subs because it's such a quick show. We just want blocks of colour, control of the LEDs. And then really they want a front of house wash and then specials on particular singers. So all of that has to be got together. And because everyone's speaking the same language and everyone's kind of, maybe this group obviously have been touring since the Stone Age.
1968.
Yeah, 1968. So they're well. Red Hurley comes on with his mic and it has to be on and perfect. He's not interested in, I didn't have time to focus the light for you, Red. He just walks on, does his stuff and go. We were still plotting at, 20 to 8, but that's fine, that happens. So I'm here just to show you, that's an introduction, but I'm here to show you our fly system here a bit. And I will walk you around and show you the scene dock and the entrance, and I can show it to you from outside and inside, and then we'll come back and we'll just do a quick flying.
Can we just put that in context that the flying system here is very eminently usable, and it's to ensure that people understand, like say the difference between the rig upstairs, the grid upstairs, and also the access into the studio as opposed to the access here as well. Yeah.
So those are kind of 2 other pitfalls then. But we were talking about all knowing what we're doing and what we're saying when we come into a venue. But also here, we're very lucky that we can bring lighting bars and rigging bars into working height and change things. So pre-rigs are usually, accepted, depending on how ahead of schedule we get them, because we can bring everything in, re-rig it, take it out. And then if I've actually got Jason Byrne then on Thursday and Friday, so we change the rig slightly for that. We can bring it all in the morning, have it changed and put it all back out by the end of the day. So when the rig was put in nearly 10 years ago now, Eamon Fox and Liam Fitzgerald actually put it in physically themselves. This is one point I wanted to make as well, that when it was chosen and designed and and they put in the bid for it. It was chosen really to provide Irish theatre technicians and other examples for Irish theatre of the best you could possibly get at the time. It's a fully computerised rig with 32 PCs in the roof. Each PC is separately controlled via what's called the Genesis and a Havari. And then we've got a CD1, which is a large touchscreen controller, which the actual flyman will use during the show. And then there's an RC128, which, it's all the names, all the numbers that technicians love. And that's a mobile controller that I can use, when we're flying curtains for the panto or flying scenery pieces. There's quite a good...
Dylan, sorry, can I just add in one more number?
Yeah.
Which was the cost.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, that's what I do.
Yeah.
So it cost, we put it in 2008, and it cost at the time 680,000.
Yes.
And I finally paid it off last year.
Yeah.
So it took me 10 years.
And it's been doing all that work, and
Yeah.
and it's put in by a German company, ASM. They would have the rolling contract for. I'll talk about the rig when I bring it in a bit, actually, because I'll be able to point to it and show you things. But they have an annual maintenance, which also is a quite considerable cost. They have to fly someone over from Germany. We put them up in a hotel for 2 nights. 3 technicians have to clean all the bands by hand. We have to clean all the bars, obviously, and then he has to check all the computers and all the systems. And that's a 4-day event in July, which is part of one of the issues we've been talking about in venues, that kind of time where you can maintain the venue as well. And my point about Liam and Eamon actually building it is they brought some of that cost down by acting as labourers, drilling, humping, hauling, lifting. There was no fly floor, all of that was put into the roof. So they had a personal investment. And I suppose my point about all of that is that it's not a case of technicians in venues turning things on and using stuff. They actually are building it, maintaining it. I saw Nick earlier, building, maintaining other people's stuff. There's a personal investment in the equipment on site, which, I've been in 4 venues now, and I've been in venues where it's had to be rebuilt or it's already ready for you, which is better. And as you get older, you get more experience from each venue you go into. But all of the venues need pretty much constant maintenance. You need to be able to put tweeters in speakers. You need to be able to mend cables. We test all cables and all power cables for just continuity and for wiring twice a year. All lamps, which Connolly will take apart now and break, are serviced over 2 weeks. There's 160 lamps or something. They're all taken apart back to the ceramic, checked and then put back together and oiled and everything, and then refocused and tested and lenses cleaned and all that kind of thing. And so here would be, as far as my experience goes, that's the extreme end of maintenance where he's forced the venue to give time, which essentially is 3 weeks over to maintenance, which a lot of venues can't do. They can't afford, they can't take the time off, or they want to program all the way through, and you just get on with it on a Saturday morning, when you've got nothing else to do apparently, and you can't, and you just can't do that. We have to bring everything down and strip, obviously then lifting and handling would check all the. We've got a front of house truss here, that would come down, be sent away. Motors are sent away. We're actually doing there's 2 inspections a year. We're doing. The first lifting and handling in 2 weeks' time. When we go into the studio, you'll see the fixed rig there, and that's all checked in 2 weeks. So we're lucky here. We can, like what you were saying, we can probably put a show in quite comfortably in a day with 2 people. If you go into the studio, you're rigging off ladders. Every time you put a lamp up, focus it or move it involves climbing an 8-foot ladder, moving it, coming down, moving it, climbing it. So there, if you've got a 40-50 lamp rig, you're looking at. Connolly actually told me a good way of working it out. Even on a focus, if you've got 5 minutes, 6 minutes a lamp, and you've got 60 lamps, you're looking at hours to do something, rather than Right, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to focus. I want it done before lunch. You know, thinking you can do it in
Dylan,
half an hour.
And could you just put it in context for everybody as well? When you're
Yeah.
talking about the gig rig,
Yeah.
you're telling people how it's possible to do a certain amount of work with 2 techs and the 2 touring techs. But for example, if your gig rig wasn't in place and you're starting from scratch, you had a big theatre show and everything had to be taken
Stripped everything
down,
out,
how
yeah.
long would it take one guy to put up everything that you've put there now and focus on? Or 2
We
guys?
definitely would. Well, here because we can bring it in.
Yeah.
It's a 4-hour rig, but that's only literally getting the lamps on and up. It's taken me. It would take 6 hours at least to get it ready back to this.
Yeah.
But that's only because we have a colour library here, and Eamon has that gig rig, you know, in his head memorised. I mean, he could do it probably 20 minutes, but
Come on.
but the benefit
from
of
memory,
that.
it takes around about 2 hours.
Yeah.
But that's a basic gig rig.
Yeah,
if it's in your head.
We're doing 16 lamps. We had similar. We're doing 16 lamps a bar, but we have a set of colour that we use, and we have a set of gobos that we use, and then Eamon and all the LEDs are programmed as the gig rig. So when we go to the desk, all those numbers are in the head, or I have a pre-programmed. I've got a Dylan generic, you know. So like last night, I could open that. The LEDs all worked. The gig rig, actually, which is only at the moment that back power line, was working and ready, you know. So, but it from
What
scratch.
What you're describing though is like that's the best possible scenario.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just to
Oh yeah,
flag
and
that.
invariably, like next week we've got Dyad in. So, but we're lucky, I suppose, again there where when we're doing the time machine with Rebecca, we have 3 extra pre-wired bars, IWBs, which we can run to, because Eamon's installed himself an extra, 80 to 100 dimmers here, you know. So we can run separate socket packs. So we are able to maybe rig the time machine on empty bars, because we've got 32 bars as well inside the gig rig, and not use the gig rig. So Dyad is a 2-colour wash with some specials, you know, on a huge white cyc with a white floor. So Rebecca's quite a good example of being very well prepared and having everything laid out. She is using a house technician to plot 141 cues, rig, focus, and get the venue ready in one day, and operate that show and know that show. That's 141 lighting cues, there's 49 sound cues. All of that is coming to me next Tuesday morning, and I've never seen the show before. So we will do a pre-rig, but I'll probably take some of the house rig out. We might just leave LX3 because it's usually 60. It's quite a heavy bar wiring wise. But if you look, I have got Fresnels here. I'm going to move on. I don't want to.
I think just for those of you that this might begin to sound like a Far Side cartoon, what people say about here, the basis of it is that a venue like this, which is really well set up, it is relatively straightforward coming into it. But there is still a human cost in that there are people have to put the time in. You might go into a venue where there is only one technician and they're not set up for it, and they don't have a colour library and they don't have a computerised rig, and they're still being expected to put the same thing in. So I guess that's what we'll be looking at later on, you know. But this particular venue is very well set up for this, both in preparatory wise and also in all the equipment that they have. And that is as a result of Eamon insisting on 3 weeks of maintenance and in maintaining the stuff and maintaining a library and insisting on using a gig rig for shows that come in that need to be set up in a day.
Yeah, and Ema investing in that time with Eamon, giving 2 technicians so that someone can do the admin. Obviously in the last 3 venues I've been, and in most of the venues where there's only one technical manager. So the technical manager will be.
We're at the point where we're thinking we need a third technical.
There's actually a third one on the
We need
card.
somebody
So.
else. Particularly in that autumn period where it's just
Well, when you're running 2
mental.
venues and the technical, and one of the
and
things
and
we'd
2
be
gallery
looking at,
spaces.
2
My
gallery spaces
experience,
and the
My
maintenance.
My
of the
experience
buildings
then
as
is
well.
doing everything I've just said to you, and then running to the office trying to ring 3 shows in the next 3 weeks and hassling them for information, And I'm getting a bit of that now because Eamon's off, so it's back to the old days, you know, where you're doing 2 or 3 things and you're then also, there are certain things that are breaking that need maintained because we've got Peter Pan coming in. Peter Pan is one where we're flying people, you know, flying children. There's 3 children being flown. And so that's also then on top of that, quite a responsibility. So we're talking about a responsibility to the venue, to the equipment, and then a personal responsibility to the life and well-being of other human beings, you know, which is what underlies all of it, and which is Eamon's main drive, is that he calls it an industry, which you know is a bit of a kind of impersonal term, but it's a very personable industry. You know, it's using people on stage. You know, you'll go around and we matted things, and this group, you know, we're not taping everything because it's all coming out again tonight, and they're adults and they're professionals, so there's a certain amount of understanding there. But health and safety again is another whole thing. I'm going to bring the bar in and show the flies quickly rather than us all move and then come back.
Yep.
And then it'll be ready just to do the last bit. So this is another thing about the system was that when it was built, it was actually invented. So the serial number on our controller is 0001. And there was not. It was invented by the German company based on how they control cranes, you know, to load boats and stuff, or down the docks. And it looks like a crane controller. This is a smaller version of it, and it's touchscreens. It's all Windows 98 as well. Which is exciting. So it might not work. But basically, you know, we have a login. You can select hoist. So I can select hoist 3 here, and then you can choose the speed. You can choose the type of whether it comes in manually or whether it's a destination. So anywhere between 1,500, 1.5 meters, and 11 meters and 11,149, whatever it is. The rig is 12 meters, but it only goes up so far. You can choose any position within a millimeter at the controller. You know, so that's very useful for flying set pieces. You know, a bit like that we do in all the other bigger venues as well. You can bring a piece in and actually hit it on the floor or to a set height again and again and again. So I'm only doing it manually with our LX bar, and then it's a dead man switch, so if I let go or fall over, it will stop moving. At the moment, the max speed is 1,000 as a meter per second, which is a bit scary, so I'm going to turn it down. And on average, we kind of do, you know, 200-300 per second millimeters. But you might need different speeds. So you can hear there that you can't hear it. Yeah. That's the main thing. And so this is very slow. We can let go and it'll stop instantly. We can turn it up the speed. Okay. And then there's a slightly faster speed. So obviously then on your own, the reason this is here, and the reason we're a bit funny about only having technical, like the in-house technicians control it, is that at any time you could rip, you know, all the socket packs out the wall. You could catch a wire on something here and lift something. We have seen it lift stage decks where the cables got caught underneath. You know, there's a whole mindset to controlling it, which is why local groups come in and go, oh, can we not do it? Do you know what I mean? Or in Solstice, where it's just a push-button system, it is possible for them to do it, but we've had issues where they push the wrong button, or, you know, and then they've flown, rather than fly a piece in, they've flown all the lighting rig out, and that's ripped all the DMX and socket. You're trying to repatch it all in the interval, you know. So that's why, you know, there's a kind of a need for certain rules, you know, and especially with this system, obviously, it's a dangerous system. So what I've also done here then with that bar is cues. So same as you would do on the sound desk or the lighting desk, which is why we need a flyman, and you have to pay for a second technician. We call them scenes on here. I can select a scene. So I just did 2 scenes here, Tech 1 and Tech 2. So Tech 1 will just bring this into 1,946 millimeters, and it's a hold and then start. I don't know where it is at the moment, but wherever it is, it'll take it to that height exactly. I can come out of that manually and select Tech 2, which is going to take it to 2001 millimeters, which I thought was funny. It was an accident. And there it goes. Obviously then I can program it now quickly as a sequence. And this is the last thing I'll do. Select sequences. So I'm going down and oh no, I'm going to create sequence and choose scenes. You know, and so you can choose scenes, and then it will go. Obviously, it's not going to do it for me now. Or you can choose scenes and then add scenes together. So what we've done recently is where, and which you can't do in some places, they're hemps. You know, in Axis they're hemps. You're not going to be untying the hemp, letting it in, letting it out, retying the hemp. You might be if you're, you know, if you're physically that strong, but in the same as in the board gauche or in the Gaiety or whatever, you are going to want to bring one piece in and take another piece out at the same time, you know, which is a usual kind of crossover, which we can do here with, I think, as many bars. I think I'm right, I'm not sure, but as many bars as we like. You know, invariably we don't. We tend to bring one piece in and then check everything's okay on the radio and then take another piece out, you know, because it's so dangerous. But that means that all we're doing is is like a go button, you know, and we're not having to program everything in between.
I think it's worth saying at this point as well, is nobody else has this.
Nobody else has this.
If I have to drop in a bar, I have to untie a rope, or I have to turn the key and press a button.
Yeah.
So it does make rigging and whatnot harder and longer. And what Dylan said as well about being able to put another rig up on the other bars, because these bars will take all the same weight regardless of whether they're LX bars or, well, there's no such thing, it's just a bar. But
Yeah.
where in the likes of Dunmace, we put 5 LX bars and that's it. And if you want to put anything on a hemp bar, basically you get told no, can you not use the other bar, because it's just physically horrible having to drag up a bar that's got a half a dozen
16 park
tabs
hands on it.
It's
Yeah.
just, you know,
You're pointing at
nothing
me.
I'm not
pleasant
pointing
about
you
it.
at all.
The vast
you know,
majority of venues
yeah.
as well, like they can't rig 2 shows on top of each other.
No.
And you just can't do it. So I mean, you're looking at the one in about maybe 2 or 3 venues in
Yeah,
Ireland.
there are.
that could
I
do
mean, it's outside of the huge places. This is the only place that's got such nice kit.
Yeah,
And even
it
in
was
the
put-
likes of Armagh, you wouldn't be allowed to move the gig rig. That would have to stay. You wouldn't be allowed to use that bar.
yeah, or you'd have to return it to gig rig at the end
No,
of
no,
the
you
show.
just wouldn't be allowed to use it. Period.
Sometimes Eamon has that written in where it's returned to gig rig, or you know, so especially for the big musical societies where we've got maybe a bit more time on the get out, we would put all masking and hang a gig rig at the end of the get out, and that would be part of the stipulation, or you know. That all comes from contracting, which I'm going to talk about later, and the responsibility for managers, and where we were talking when we were talking about today, where I'd found as a venue technician, you know, a slight kind of miss where, you know, maybe in the contract certain things were agreed or you know, expected, and then the company expects, you know, certain things, and then actually the technician on the day just isn't able to do that, and there's just been a communication slight, you know, error. But that's
We'll be dealing with that later on.
we'll be dealing with that later on.